visiting nextshabbatny.com. I'm Aviva. I'm in the amazing kitchen of Helen Nash, a wonderful chef who is sharing some great recipes with us today. We've got chocolate, it's kosher cooking, it's fun, it's delicious. Use it at your Shabbat, have friends over, everybody eats, it's great. She wrote 3 wonderful books, which you can actually purchase on Amazon or any of your favorite online retailers. Easy recipes, healthy, kosher, delicious. What's not to love? We hope you have a wonderful Shabbat meal with your friends, and thanks for visiting.
We're doing chocolate meringue squares. The reason I selected that is because it's a very nutritious recipe with very few ingredients, which is always very helpful. You don't need to go to the market and have a whole list. The important thing is to preheat the oven first. Okay, what you need to do before baking, it's a 9 by 13 by 2, and it says so in the recipe pan. It is covered with wax paper. I'm going to show you how to grease it with margarine. The margarine is unsalted. Now, we are going to separate the egg whites. The recipe is very nutritious. It has no egg yolks. It only has egg whites. But it's best to separate the egg whites when they are cold, but it's best to bake it when they're at room temperature. So I advise a few minutes before, separate the eggs. Years and years and years ago, I was taught how to separate, and I still keep this theory. You can use any method that you want, but I sort of want to get the optimum of egg whites. So I was told years and years ago by a very famous chef to separate it in my hand so you get the optimum of the egg whites. And because we are kosher, I generally check whether there's any blood on the egg yolk, so it's important to do one at a time. In this particular recipe, we have no leavening agent except for the egg whites, so it's important to get as many as possible. Now, the bowl, is important that the bowl always be clean. When you beat the egg whites, characteristically you have it on at high speed. If you beat yolks, you have it at medium speed. Now, what I have done, I have ground chocolate. The way you ground chocolate is we cut the chocolate into small cubes, and we've just put it in a Cuisinart, which is how it was ground, sort of semi-fine, so there's still some texture to it. So I'm just going to combine the chocolate and the almonds. These days you can buy blanched almonds, which means almonds without their skin. So I'm just combining the two together. The egg whites are ready, and we will beat the egg whites. So I'm going to put the mix master on high, lock it, and when it gets a tiny bit foamy, I'm going to gradually put in the sugar, which is 1 cup of sugar. It got a little foamy, and I'm just going to, till it forms a very stiff, what's called meringue. And it's always on a high. Egg whites are on high. Let's see, Anna. Yeah, see how stiff it is? Okay. Now, characteristically, you open this, you want to save everything, but don't bang it on here. Okay? Hands are indispensable. Anybody who told you to wear gloves while you're doing that is not exactly a cook, because gloves cannot do what. Okay? Now, we combine. Couldn't be easier, could it? And I do it like a figure 8, so you can get to the bottom of the bowl. Figure 8 meaning that you go to the bottom and then you cut through. And you use a spatula, a large spatula. Yeah. Now, I'm going to spoon this mixture into the pan, and I'm going to make sure that it is equally distributed. Okay, so I'm just smoothing it so it's nice, and it doesn't matter if it's not that smooth because you're going to invert it anyhow in order to cut it, because you need to remove the wax paper. The oven is preheated. You check whether the temperature is 350. If it happens that your oven is not accurate, adjust it to 350. And you place this in the center, not at the edge, but in the center. Okay. So now I'm going to put it in the oven, and I'm going to set it for 23 minutes, even though it says 25. So here this is in the center at 350. I checked with the thermometer in the center, and I'm going to set it for 23 minutes. Let's see. All right, now. See, it's dry. Okay, so we're taking out the meringue. We're going to cool it, then we're going to invert it. So the way to invert this is to take a board, any kind of a board. I'm sure at home you have anything that you could use, and you just flip it over. Okay, and you try to release a tiny bit the edges of where the wax paper is. Can you see? Yeah, okay, so now you remove that, and you remove the wax paper, which is why I told you it didn't matter how the top looked. Okay. And try to grease the wax paper, because otherwise you'll have a little difficulty removing it. But once it's greased, it just comes off very easily. All right, so you can do it in squares of this size, so you cut the slice through. I like to do it into little squares, okay, this size. But if you don't like it into squares this size, I'll show you what you can do in 1 minute. So you have those. Okay. Now, if you don't like this size, which I think is fine, you can take the same square and cut it into half, and then you've got a triangle. Okay, so you can have smaller version, or you can even cut it larger, whatever your heart desires. So nothing is written in stone. The whole idea is to give you some inspiration, and you can fool around with it, which is my philosophy. And kosher cooking is certainly much more advantageous because it's more nutritious. We're not mixing milk and creams and meat together. There is absolutely no problem in the United States. You can get ingredients galore, which you couldn't get before. And it's really a great deal of fun because you can have the whole family together and friends at the same time, especially on holidays, Friday nights, and any other occasion. So I recommend being kosher for sure.